to unmute yourselves as well. All right, great. First thing I want to get started with today here is just talking about where we're located. The UW campus is located in Seattle, Washington. As I mentioned, we do have one in Bothell or Tacoma, but UW Seattle located in Seattle, Washington, just a few miles north of downtown Seattle. So for those of you who've been to downtown Seattle before, but not to the UW campus, just about say like 10, 15 minutes north of downtown Seattle. We're kind of tucked away in our own neighborhood in Seattle, the University District. So you're not right in the middle of the city, but at the same time, you have the opportunity to take advantage of some of those big city opportunities and resources. So you want to go downtown, catch a Seahawks, Mariners, Storm, Sounders game, you can do that. You want to go to a concert, you want to go out to Ballard or Fremont, some neighborhoods just to the west of campus by bus or walking or biking, go to the Ballard Seafood Festival, the Fremont Farmers Market. You have the opportunity to check out those opportunities over there. So being in a big city definitely has its perks and some fun opportunities. Additionally, you have lots of opportunity to engage with the natural world. So on campus here, as you can kind of see from this picture, right on the shores of Lake Washington, our campus kind of runs up right against Lake Washington there. If you want to rent a canoe and paddle around Lake Washington, you have the opportunity to do so. If you want to go for a run or a bike ride on the Burke-Gilman Trail, which is like a 20-mile long running and biking trail that cuts right through campus. So lots of opportunities for outdoor recreation, even though you are in the city. About an hour, hour and a half from like Snoqualmie, Stevens Pass. So lots of hiking, skiing, snowboarding out there as well. Kind of shifting gears a little bit and talking about our academic programs, UW has 180 different majors, so incredibly wide variety in terms of what you can study here at the UW. I always like to say anything ranging from CS to CS, so that's computer science to Canadian studies. But I think that's one of the benefits of going to a large institution is that you really have the opportunity to study a wide variety of topics, through like a double major or a major and a minor, or just exploring different major options. You're going to have some flexibility and a lot of opportunities to explore different programs here at the UW. You're only in class about 15 hours a week. So for sure, outside of that time in class, you got to be studying and taking care of those academics. But there's so many ways to learn and enjoy your time here at the UW through opportunities outside the classroom. So as you can see from that last bullet point, UW receives more federal funding for research than any other public institution in the US. So research, about 9,000 students will participate in a given year. That could be, say, on campus in our health sciences building, kind of doing more traditional research as you may think of it, like in a lab with, say, a professor, for example. Research could also, say, happen in a school in Seattle, like talking to students or parents or teachers. It could also happen out in the Friday Harbor Labs out in the San Juan Islands. So if you drive about an hour north from Seattle, hop on a Washington State ferry, you'll be out in Friday Harbor out there. And so UW has a facility, the Friday Harbor Labs, where students can live, take classes for a quarter and do research in the field of oceanography and marine biology, for example. So, your classroom, your learning opportunities are going to extend well beyond just the classroom. Speaking on UW a little bit more and our opportunities for students to build community on campus and just be successful here. We are a large campus, but there's so many ways to build those smaller communities out here and connect with students who have similar interests as you. So we have nearly 1,000 different student clubs. That ranges anywhere from, say, undergraduate women in business to robotics to pre-law club for more academic related programs, to things such as our hiking club or club soccer team, rugby, ultimate frisbee, lots of different recreation opportunities, the things that are a little bit more fun, so like Human vs. Zombies, Bagel Club, Harry Potter Club, you name it, there's kind of a club for everything at UW. So just one way that a lot of students will build community with one another. Another way a lot of students will connect with their classmates is through their living situations. So about 70% of freshmen will live on campus in our dorms and residence halls. A lot of variety in terms of the living situations, could have a single room, a double room, a triple room, different kind of suite style livings potentially, but a lot of variety in terms of living situations, both on campus as well as off campus. So houses and apartments right around the UW area. And we also have a Greek system if you're interested in fraternity or sorority life. So about 70% of our freshmen do choose to live on campus here at the UW. We have no on-campus living requirement, so if you want to live with friends or family or in the Greek system at any time throughout UW, you are more than welcome to do so. These last two statistics down here, that 94% freshman retention rate, I think is really indicative of our student support services here at the UW as well as how much students are able to engage with their education and enjoy their time here. So, be that coming into orientation, you're going to be able to sit down with an academic advisor and register for your first quarter of classes, map out what classes you're going to be taking your first year or two here. So you're not navigating this process by yourself. You can connect with folks and get that support for sure. And then additionally, just, between internships, volunteer, through building those communities on campus. I always say every student you talk to here at UW, they're passionate about the things that they're doing, be that inside the classroom or outside the classroom. So I think that just supportive and passionate environment, students enjoy their time here at the UW. The last piece down here, average time to graduation is 4 years. So we recognize that college is an investment of your time and financial resources. So want to make sure you can take care of your business during your time here at the UW and move on to that next step after graduation, be that graduate school, medical school, or finding that job. Last piece I'll touch on here before taking a quick little pause. These are just some of our employers that call the Seattle area home. You're probably familiar with lots of these big companies here. So just for reference, about 58% of our students will have an internship before they graduate. Could be at a big company like this, could be at a nonprofit organization, could be at a little startup, for example. So many different ways that students can get those hands-on learning experiences and build professional connections before they graduate. So again, they can find that, say, next job after they graduate. Just for example, when I was a senior at UW, I kind of had a job internship about 15 hours a week. I was working at a local high school. And that was something that I enjoyed a lot, something that allowed me to help pay and contribute towards my college education here at the UW. And then last but not least, it allowed me to kind of get some super valuable experience learning from professionals working in the field I was interested in, and get some great connections as well. So still folks that I know from that job and internship I see all the time, and kind of a great professional connection, but also just a good way to kind of build community in the Seattle area. So just a little example there of some of the different ways that students can get connections. We also have a career and internship center that support students from anything ranging from resume building, cover letters, job searches, as well as like when I was a senior, I met with an advisor and they kind of did a mock interview. So help me prepare for a job interview. So lots of resources and support with those folks as well. But I'll pause for a second here. Before digging into the admissions and financial aid piece, I just wanted to see if you all had any questions about Seattle, UW, experience, majors, anything along those lines. So again, feel free to drop those questions in the chat. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask a question if you'd like, but I'll just pause for a second here. Okay, great. I'm not seeing any questions right now, so I'll keep on moving along here. But again, feel free to drop those questions in the chat as they come up, and I'll be sure to get to them. And we'll be sure to leave time for questions at the end as well. All right, so I want to dig into our application a little bit here. For those of you who are seniors, I know this is in the forefront of your minds, how to apply to the UW, but if you're, say, a junior, sophomore, even a freshman, hopefully this information will be relevant for you all as well as you're thinking about how can you prepare to apply. So the UW, the one and only way to apply is through the Coalition application. This is a big shared application platform with about 150 different colleges and universities across the country. So this is the one and only way to apply to UW is through the Coalition application. The Coalition is broken into two chunks. You have the profile section, that's more general information about yourself, and that's open to you at any time throughout high school to get started. So if you're a junior right now and you want to get a jump on your college apps, or maybe at least this summer before you start up, with your senior year, you can get started on the profile section of the Coalition, and that's about 80% of the total UW application. Then you have the UW question section. The UW question section is about 20% of the overall UW application. That's where you'll list your first and second choice major, put your personal statement, short response essay, as well as if you want to apply to the interdisciplinary honors program. Those are all going to be in the UW question section. So just a few little examples there. That's how you apply to UW, and we just have those two little chunks. The UW question section opens up on September 1st of your senior year, so that's like the first day you can actually apply to the UW. But again, you can get a good jump on your Coalition application where you will be applying as early as your freshman year of high school. We have an $80 application fee, and that $80 application fee can be waived as long as you qualify for a fee waiver. So we have a little tab in the Coalition called fee waiver. If you can check yes, that say you qualify for your free and reduced lunch or an SAT or an ACT score fee waiver, qualify for the Pell Grant, we'll waive your UW application fee. A few things on here that we do not look at or ask for as part of our review process. First, transcripts. No need to send us transcripts. We do not look at those as part of our review process. So you're probably wondering how we do look at your academics. You're going to be self-reporting all of your high school coursework and grades on the Coalition application. So that can take a little bit of time, as you can probably tell. So if you have an unofficial copy or transcript that you want to use for your own personal reference, that's a great tip I try to pass along to students. But again, don't send us your transcripts, not needed at all as part of our review process. If you're admitted to UW and decide to attend, that's when you would send us an official transcript. New this year, we're no longer requiring SAT or ACT scores. So those aren't going to be looked at all when we're reviewing or reading applications. If you have SAT or ACT scores and you'd like to send them to us, you're more than welcome to do so. Again, we're not going to, the readers of the application will not see them when reviewing those apps, but when we're making like waitlist and admit determinations for students who are maybe like really borderline between that waitlist and admit, we may take a look at test scores, and if students have really, really outstanding test scores, those could potentially help them a little bit, but quote, low test scores or no test scores, those aren't going to disadvantage you at all as part of our review process. And last but not least, we do not ask for letters of recommendation, so we don't look at those. We get to know you through your essays that you write about yourself, opposed to someone else writing about you. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts of our application process. I'm gonna cover one more quick thing about holistic review, and then I know we have a couple questions in the chat about major that I'm more than happy to get to, so I'll be sure to get to those for those students who asked. Two things I wanna cover really quick here is just holistic review. And holistic review essentially means we're looking at you more than just your GPA throughout high school. We want to get to know you as a person, as we know you're a lot more than just that grade point average. And being a student at UW is a lot more than just, earning a strong GPA, for example, right? There's so many different things that make up your UW experience and that we're looking for from UW students, as you can tell from my last few minutes talking here. So academic preparation and performance, that's kind of the first pillar of our holistic review, and it's going to lead the way as part of our review process. Academic preparation and performance refers to your academics throughout high school, but we're really unpacking your high school GPA and seeing what it represents. So for example, we're looking at rigor of curriculum. Like, how much are you challenging yourself throughout high school? We'd love to see students who are challenging themselves and preparing for the rigors of college coursework. At the very minimum, we want students to complete the college academic distribution requirements, or CADRs. These are going to align pretty closely with your high school graduation requirements, most likely. But just a few examples of how students can exceed CADRs and potentially make themselves more competitive. One example, you're only required to complete 3 years of math and through at least Algebra 2 in high school. What we see, about 80% of our admitted students here at the UW will complete pre-calculus or higher. So that's just one little example of how you could challenge yourself in the subject area of math. Another one, we only require 2 years of world language, but we see a lot of our admitted students complete 3 or more years of world language. So again, just another example of how you can challenge yourself and be a more competitive applicant, as well as just prepare in general for that rigorous college coursework coming up down the road. So exceeding CADR minimums is one way that we love to see students challenging themselves. Another one, if your school offers, say, AP, IB, college in the high school, Running Start, if you're taking Running Start at a local community college, those are all great ways that you can challenge yourself and, again, just kind of prepare for the rigors of college curriculum. Last but not least, we love to see students continuing to challenge themselves throughout senior year. So I always encourage students to take a relatively full schedule. If you're a full-time high school student, taking 4 or more core academic classes throughout high school is always a good little rule of thumb I advise students to go towards. But that's kind of the academic preparation performance. The last thing I'll touch on here is we look at grade trend. So, if there's one semester in high school that you feel like just isn't indicative of who you are as a student and grades were lower than you would have liked, I'd encourage you to address that and explain that on the application. So if you've experienced adversity, you feel like that's impacted your academics, there's going to be space in our additional comment section to address that. We're always going to take that background information and context into consideration when trying to understand your academics. Additionally, grade trend in general, if you did slip up at any point throughout high school, just having a positive grade trend moving forward from that point is also going to be important. that's kind of academics just in a quick little nutshell there. For personal achievements and characteristics, that really refers to the information we're going to gather from the different writing sections on the application. So you have the personal statement, that's that college essay about yourself, 650 words, really an opportunity for us to get to know you, what makes you unique. What are those characteristics? What are those experiences that you've had that are important to you and important for us to know about you? So really kind of thinking about what are those characteristics? Is that leadership? Is that you're resilient, for example? A little bit of everything that students could write about here. There's no one specific topic that we're looking for, but I always encourage students, regardless of what you're writing about, try to be specific and share examples to really bring those traits and characteristics to life. So if I'm writing about leadership, for example, it's really important that I share examples about like how I've demonstrated leadership, little short stories and anecdotes, because as someone who's reading an application, that's how a student's going to stand out. That's what's going to make them unique if they're able to read those unique experiences and stories that a student is sharing. The second essay that we have is the short response essay. That's 300 words. And that one's really focused on the communities that students come from and how those communities that students are a part of right now maybe will impact their involvement on the UW campus and how they will contribute to the diversity here at the UW. So the words community and diversity, very broad in the sense that that could refer to family, cultural group, neighborhood, school, for example. Very broad in terms of how students can define community, but more information on that prompt on our website too. And again, just another opportunity for us to get to know you a little bit. Last but not least, we have an activity log. So on there, you can list up to 8 activities. That's anything ranging from sports, clubs, volunteer, jobs, family commitments, hobbies, say if you're playing music or doing art or coding in your free time, those are all things you can list on the activity log. We'd love to see students who have good depth of involvement in activities. So taking on leadership, responsibility, being involved in an activity for multiple years on end is something that we do like to see. Last but not least, I mentioned we do have that additional information section. So anything else that you feel like is important to touch on, you're welcome to do so. Again, if you've faced any adversity throughout high school that you feel like it's important for us to know about, if you have unique perspective or cultural awareness, you can touch on those throughout your essays, but really just allowing us to get to know you a little bit is going to be important. So that's kind of a holistic review in a nutshell there. I'll pause for a second and I'll address the questions that we got there. And if you have any questions about holistic review, feel free to drop them in the chat, and I'll also pause after answering these 2 questions to see if there's any other questions that you all have. We had a question about going into the field of dermatology. And for students who are interested in any kind of higher level study of medicine, something specific like dermatology, we'll say we have really good like pre-med resources and pathways at UW, but nothing like specific, say, in the field of dermatology. And kind of speaking more generally, if students are interested in, say, like, physical therapy or like, going to medical school, going to dental school, being a veterinarian, for example, well, we don't have those as majors at the UW, but we have the foundational classes that you need to take in order to apply to dental school or med school or vet school. So students can major in just about anything at the UW, work with the pre-med and pre-health advisors to make sure they're taking the correct classes here at UW in order to prepare for that next step, as well as take advantage of different shadowing research or internship opportunities related to that field of study. So hopefully that helps a little bit to answer that question there, but yes, lots of foundational support and help that would allow a student to, say, potentially get to a career as a dermatologist. Second question was about, do we have an international business major? We don't have a specific international business major. We have the Foster School of Business, which is one of the top business schools in the country. Within there, students can kind of choose a specific track, be it like accounting, finance, marketing, and we don't have one specific in those options for international business, but we do have a certificate of international business that students can kind of get on the side. So like, yes, you can take classes in the field of international business. And then we have study abroad programs as well that relate to that international business side of things. So I haven't mentioned too much, but over 600 different study abroad programs. Great way to earn UW college credits, work towards graduation while studying in another country for about as short as a month or as long as maybe even 9 months. But yeah, cool. I had another question here about environmental science and studies and how competitive that field is. Yeah, so environmental, there's a variety of different majors in our College of the Environment. There's environmental science and resource management, kind of more general environmental studies. There's a variety of other majors kind of related to that as well. Um, in terms of like the pathways out there, I think something that stands out to me is like the hands-on learning and work experience in the field of the environment in Seattle. If you're really interested in, say, sustainability, I know UW received recognition for one of the top, like, green colleges in the US. Um, we have a place right on campus. This is like UW property, and it's called the Union Bay Natural Area. And we have a UW facility called the Center for Urban Horticulture down there. There's a UW farm down there. So very hands-on learning as it relates to like wetland restoration, biodiversity in the Seattle area. So students doing like hands-on restoration there as well as research. And then, as I kind of mentioned, in the field of like marine biology and sciences, UW has like two different research vessels that'll be out in the Puget Sound or the Pacific Ocean. The Friday Harbor Labs is a great way where students can do that hands-on research in the field of the environment. And there's lots of different environmental organizations and nonprofits in the Seattle area too that I've had friends intern and work at as well. So hopefully that helps a little bit there. Admissions requirements vary major by major, and I'll talk a little bit more about admissions pathways in a second. Question about psychology major. I think I'll pop to this next slide really quick, because I think this may help a little bit. But so like the vast majority of the majors at UW do not directly admit freshmen. So the vast majority of students come into UW as pre-major students. Then you take prerequisites for your intended major and, apply to your major maybe after about like a year or two. Really depends on the major. At UW, we have three different kinds of majors. We have open majors, so that's a major that you can declare at any time. So you're a UW student, you can go in and declare that major at any time. By examples of this would be such as like, geography, I know is an open major here at the UW. Marine biology, I believe, is an open major. Actually there's lots more, but I'm blanking right now off the top of my head. So there's open majors, there's minimum requirements majors. An example of a minimum requirement major would be like history, for example. So you take the minimum classes required, then you can go ahead and declare that major. The last kind of major, and I know that's kind of the ones you all are asking about, but those are capacity constrained majors. So capacity constrained majors range anywhere from, say, like, computer science to business to informatics. Just an example of a few of our capacity constrained majors. The admissions process and acceptance rate for those will vary a lot major by major. Most of those don't publish their admissions statistics on their website. So unfortunately, I can't speak in too much depth on that, but you're more than welcome to reach out to those departments directly to get a little bit more information about their processes. Just as it may be helpful, as I know I got a handful of questions about major right here, I'll go ahead and drop a quick link in the chat here, and this is just going to have a list of all of our majors at UW. And there's a guide that shows which ones are open, which ones are capacity constrained, and which ones are minimum requirements. So welcome to take a peek on that and get a little bit better sense of all of our majors that we have here. So as I kind of mentioned, the vast majority of students come into UW as pre-major students. For those of you who are maybe interested in computer science or engineering, these are very unique programs, and that the vast majority of students in these programs are directly admitted as freshmen. So in that sense, they're very unique. All you need to do to be considered for direct admission to these programs is list them as your first choice major on the UW application. If you're admitted to UW, we'll let you know at that same time if you are directly admitted. If you are directly admitted, you are guaranteed a spot in that program. If not, we will also let you know come springtime when you receive your UW admission decision. And the big takeaway here is that if you're not directly admitted to these programs, it's going to be very difficult for you to enter these programs later on at UW. So again, all you need to do to be considered for direct admission, go ahead and list it as your first choice major on the UW application for computer science and engineering. If you're open to studying a second choice major, be sure to list that as well. All right, I want to make sure I cover some of our other information here too, but I'll be sure to leave time for questions at the end as well. This past year, we received about 44,000 applications to UW. You can see the middle column there specifically for Washington residents. As we are a state institution, we do give priority to Washington residents in the review process. So I think our admit rate for Washington residents was about 63% this past year. So that's higher than it is for like non-resident students or international applicants. And again, we do give priority to Washington residents. About 2/3 of all the students at UW are Washington resident students. As it relates to that high school GPA, again, we admit students across a wide variety of GPA ranges. We have the mid 50 percentile right here, so that 3.74 to 3.97 on the left side, that represents the middle 50% of the admitted students from this past year. So 25% of students admitted to UW had below a 3.74, 25% of students admitted to the UW had above a 3.97. So students admitted across a variety of GPA ranges, really about all those other factors that we look at in the holistic review that determine the admission decision beyond just the GPA. So some quick numbers and deadlines here. Again, our UW application opens up. First day to apply is September 1st, but that coalition profile is always open. Our one and only deadline for admission to the UW is November 15th. So no early action, no early decision. November 15th is your one and only deadline. So be sure to apply anytime between now and November 15th in order to be considered for admission. March 1st through 15th is when we release those admissions decisions, and May 1st is when you make that college decision. For financial aid, FAFSA and WASFA opened up on October 1st. Priority deadline for the University of Washington is January 15th. So if you are interested in being considered for need-based financial aid, be sure to fill out that FAFSA or WASFA as soon as possible, January 15th at the very latest, in order to receive priority for financial aid here at the UW. Just go ahead and list University of Washington as a school on your FAFSA or WASFA. Quick cost of attendance here. As you can see, the tuition at UW for one academic year, so just the cost to go to school, is a little over $11,000. Those other costs below the tuition on the left side there, those are costs associated with being a student. They will vary a lot student by student depending on your living situation, how much money you're spending on food, if you're buying textbooks new, if you're buying them used, for example. So lots of variety as it relates to that, but hopefully those numbers help a little bit. So that overall cost of attendance for Washington residents, about $28,000 for 1 year. And as you can see, in-state tuition for Washington residents much lower than U.S. non-resident students. Some quick scholarship information here. I just want to highlight the Husky Promise and the Presidential Scholarship. Husky Promise is a financial aid program, and all you need to do to be considered for Husky Promise is apply to the UW and fill out your FAFSA or WASFA by January 15th. Eligibility for Husky Promise is based on you and your family's financial information that you provide on the FAFSA or WASFA. If you qualify, then if UW, or I apologize, if the state or federal government does not cover all of your tuition, UW will help cover all of your tuition at the very minimum throughout your time here at UW. So just a scholarship for students who are eligible that ensures your tuition is covered. Presidential Scholarship, that's a $10,000 scholarship. All you need to do to be considered for that one is just apply to the UW. We're looking at the information on your application to award that scholarship. Only 8 students were awarded the Presidential Scholarship this last year, really looking at outstanding leadership, involvement in your community as the main areas of focus for Presidential Scholarship, but again, very, very competitive. Purple and Gold's for out-of-state students here at the UW. But the last thing I just wanted to touch on is that after students are admitted to UW and decide to attend, they could potentially apply for other scholarships here at the UW if they're, say, in the honors program, based on the department they're in, having strong academics, or community involvement, leadership. Those are all things that can allow students to apply to other scholarships after they start here at the UW. But that is all I have today. I want to make sure I'm leaving time for questions as well as fixing my registration link here. So I know that you all were here today, but you have my email right here. So you're welcome to jot down that email and also drop it in the chat in a second, but I'm more than happy to talk through any questions that you all have about UW or admissions process or anything we talked about today. So I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen here. Yeah, cool. And awesome. I see one question in the chat already, so I'll answer that. And again, feel free to drop those questions in the chat. I'm happy to pass along links too. So if there's anything I talked about today and you're like, hey, Ben, can you drop a link about scholarships or SAT or ACT? Just let me know and I'm happy to drop that in there. But first question was, how does College Bound Scholarship work at the UW? So yes, College Bound Scholarship is not a program directly associated with the UW, but